My name is Tom Suozzi. I am your United States Congressman. Thank you. I want to start by welcoming some of the folks that came to visit us here today. First, the mayor of Northport, who's a great guy, Mayor George Dahl. Let's give him a round of applause. And is Doc Spencer here? Someone told me Doc Spencer is here, but I don't see him. When he comes in, I'll introduce him. There's two people who are running for office that I know are here. One is Darrell St. George, who's running for Huntington Supervisor in the back there. And another is Brian Mullers, who's also running for Huntington Supervisor. From the group Action Together Long Island, Julia Fenster. Is she here? There's Julie Fenster, not Julia. And from Indivisible Huntington, Karen Arlen. You're indivisible. All the indivisible people, raise your hand so you get a round of applause. Raise your hand, indivisible. I'm going to ask that we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask Mayor Dahl to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if he doesn't mind.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I want to thank, I forget his first name. What's his name? Billy? This is the guy from the Republican Party in the back. He follows me wherever I go because they're trying to find footage to make me look bad for when they run against me next year. I'm already one of the top targeted races in America. So everybody welcome Billy from the Republican National Committee. I'm one of the 19 targeted seats in America. So I'm one of the top guys. So Billy, thanks for being here. We really appreciate that. I think it's appropriate that we did the Pledge of Allegiance. We're here in the American Legion, of course, and you know we forget sometimes. I spoke about this a lot during Memorial Day weekend. Is that this is really serious business, and it's kind of sad when we think about how petty politics has become and so personal. And these are about life and death issues. You know, I visited Afghanistan as my role in the Armed Services Committee and met with our troops over there. I met some people from the district, actually, some soldiers from our district. I also met with generals and major leaders of our military there. I've met Secretary Mattis. So I want to tell you, Secretary Mattis is a great American. He's the Secretary of Defense. He's a very good man. He's devoted his life to this country. If you want to be confident about one particular appointment by the Trump administration, Secretary Mattis is a good American who's devoted his whole life to this country. But this is serious business. You know, when we talk about the healthcare debate, this is about life and death. There are people whose lives are, their life is in the balance. And our military stuff, as I just mentioned, I believe our environmental questions are about the health of our planet for the long term and our existence, quite frankly. It's an existential issue. So these are really very serious issues. So we can't let the Pledge of Allegiance, or we can't let, our ceremonies for Memorial Day, just be superficial things. The reason that we've asked people to give their lives for this country is because it's supposed to stand for something. And it stands for democracy and a way of life. And it's important that we elevate this conversation in this country about these serious issues that we're dealing with and not let it become debased the way we see it happening recently, and really be focused on these important issues. So that's why I do these town halls. I mean, this is amazing that we have this type of turnout here. So this is wonderful. The one great thing that's going on in America today is people are paying attention. Now, people are paying attention for different reasons. Some people are paying attention because they're terrified. They can't, they're freaking out. Some people are paying attention because they love the president. But the bottom line is that people are paying attention. And the only way that democracy works is when people pay attention to what's going on in the public sphere. So I want to congratulate all of you for being here tonight. I want to ask a question to begin with. Who's never really done this type of thing before going to a town hall meeting? Raise your hand. Okay? Look at this. It's amazing. half the room has never done this kind of thing before. That's the great thing. During my campaign, I had 20, I forget the number now, 20-something? 29 town hall meetings, okay? I had meetings, my first meeting was in my hometown, I had 100 people there, okay? One of my meetings, I think it was in Dix Hills, I think it was. There were 5 people there, okay? I got a great volunteer out of it, though, so it was a great, but there were 5 people there. And, you know, the average meeting was like 30 or 40 people. My town hall meeting, I've had, I think, this is my 6th town hall since I've been elected as a congressperson. I'm going to do one every single month going forward. I've had people, you know, at least 200 people at every meeting. I went meeting 450 people, 200 people we had to turn away because the place wasn't big enough. And we had, I forget the number, it was at 6,000 people watching on Facebook. So, I mean, it's great that people are paying attention to what's going on. And that's what's great about what's happening in this country. We just have to figure out how not to get people burned out and to stay involved. And to stay involved, not just about, you know, there's a lot of people involved who say, well, get rid of the president. Well, you know, the president's really not going anywhere until the end of his 4-year term, certainly. You know, there are people talking about impeachment and things like that. That's just, if you read the statute, it's not maybe the Russia stuff, but I mean, other than that, it's unlikely. So, we've got a lot of stuff to do right now. Okay? Right now, we have to pay attention to the village of Northport, for example. We've got to pay attention to the town of Huntington for the people that are from this town. There's town races all over Long Island. Look out, in my county, in Nassau County, there's people being indicted left and right. Okay, but that's because people don't vote in local elections. We've got a lot of races this year that we need people to take their energy and activism and get involved. Well, I'm not telling you to support, I'm just saying get involved. And next year, we've got a lot of races. For the Congress, my race, get involved, definitely get involved next year. Whatever you do. So it's very important that people take this energy and they put it in productive ways. To write letters to the editor, to volunteer for campaigns, to try and persuade your neighbors and friends and family members about the merits of your position. All this stuff like, I don't go to my family parties anymore because they voted for so-and-so, and I can't believe that they voted that way. I'm shocked that they voted that way. I'm not talking to my family anymore. I defriended my friends from high school on Facebook because I can't believe how they voted. It's crazy. We can't do that. That's not the way to do this. We can't live in our little bubbles. And, you know, just one side watches, you know, Fox, the other side watches MSNBC, and we never talk to each other. It's not going to work. It's not going to make this country work. So we need to figure out how to keep this going. That's why I do these town hall meetings. Okay, I get beat up at these towns. I'm going to get beat up tonight, I can guarantee it. Who's here to beat me up? Just raise your hand if you're here to beat. There's a few people here to beat me up. My cousin is here, he's beating me up. So that's what we need to be doing. So let me just tell you very quickly, and then I'm going to make this more about questions than anything else. Do we have a clock in here? Okay. I need people to try and limit their time at the microphone to about 2 minutes if possible. To be respectful, because there's a lot of other people here. No personal attacks. No people shouting across the room at each other, okay? This is not a Trump rally where somebody's going to punch somebody else because they disagree with them, okay? People have got to talk to each other, talk to me. Everybody direct their stuff at me, I can take it. And let's be respectful of each other. It's a very, very important part of this process. And how many have been to one of my town hall meetings already? Oh, a lot of you have been here already. About a quarter of you have been here already. All right, so I'll try not to go, what's that? Stalkers, right. So I'm going to try and be brief about what's going on. So just so you know my history, okay? I grew up in Glen Cove, went to St. Patrick's Grade School, I went to Chaminade High School, I went to Boston College and studied accounting. I got my CPA, I worked for Arthur Anderson and Company, I worked there for 2 years, which is required to get your CPA, you have to work 2 years in public accounting. I went to law school at Fordham Law School, which is Long Island and Brooklyn, Queens. And I went to work for a big law firm, Sherman, and, oh, what was that?
That was you.
Oh. I ran for mayor of my hometown. I lost my first race by 400 votes. I wasn't planning on running. It's a long, funny story. I'll tell it to you another time. But I ended up loving it. And I ran again for mayor. I was mayor for 8 years, 4 terms. Then I was county executive of Nassau County for 8 years. I was the first Democrat with a Democratic legislature in Nassau County since 1917. And I was really doing great, and I decided to run for governor of New York State against Eliot Spitzer. in a Democratic primary for Arlene Spitzer. Then I lost my race for county executive to Ed Mangano. Ed Mangano of 250,000 votes. And, Mangano's now been indicted. So the lesson of the story is if you beat Suozzi, your life is over after that. So don't beat me. Anyway, so then I was in the private sector for 7 years. And our congressman, Steve Israel, announced he wasn't running for re-election on January 5th of 2016, which is very late in the cycle. 15 people said they wanted to run. It whittled down to 5 people. We had a Democratic primary. I had a tough candidate, Jack Martin, state senator from Old Westbury, and I beat him in the general election. It was a relatively close race. And now I'm in the Congress. I've had 45,000 people contact my office so far. I don't know the number now, but the running number I've been using is there are 1,200 outstanding meeting requests that I have. Every single day, I start early in the morning and go till late at night every day. In Washington, I'm on the Armed Services Committee and the Foreign Affairs Committee. That's where I spend a lot of my time, because when you get your committee assignments, you have to spend a lot of your time doing that work. I decide what else I'm going to try and devote myself to. I'm spending a lot of time on this thing called the Problem Solvers Caucus. I'm the vice chairperson of the Problem Solvers Caucus. It's 22 Democrats and 22 Republicans who are actually trying to communicate with each other to actually try and address the problems that we face in our country. So the thing that I'm preaching to all of you, I'm trying to do myself in Washington. And it's not easy. The president does not make it easy. I mean, there's really, some things that he's doing that are very tough to deal with, and it makes it hard for us to communicate. During the healthcare debate, Paul Ryan specifically said, don't talk to the Democrats. We'll handle it ourselves. We got this. The president said, don't negotiate with the Democrats during the healthcare. And they ended up with this awful bill that passed the House. I can't imagine it passing the Senate. People just saw in the newspapers about this, what's called the CBO score, the Congressional Budget Office score. It'll knock 23 million people off their health care. It'll cause people's premiums to go up dramatically, especially for senior citizens. And it'll be very problematic for a lot of people with pre-existing conditions, and it's just a very difficult bill. You can read about it in the newspapers. I'll share. I voted against it. We'll continue to work against it the best that I can. So I want to try and work across party lines. That's really my goal, is what I want to do. I was just talking with the local newspaper guy here, David Ambrose, who said he might try and come tonight. But I wrote an op-ed piece to the New York Post yesterday, and it was that I think that we need to provide mental health counseling to all veterans, because 22 veterans a day commit suicide. So this is a very serious problem in our country. And number one, mental health, people don't talk about mental health issues to begin with. And I've talked about this for years. 75% of the people in jail have a drug, alcohol, and mental health problem. And most of the problems that we face with dysfunction in families and in our society are related to drugs, alcohol, and mental health. And the veterans is a great way to bring this issue to the fore, to get people talking about mental health issues. But I'll talk about it more if somebody wants me to discuss it in more detail as time goes on. So I'm going to try and work across party lines. The reason I brought that up again was because there's a guy named Phil Rowe. He's the Republican chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee. And I want to work on this issue related to mental health for veterans, so I know I need to work with the chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee, who's a Republican. And the same thing goes with a lot of different areas. So we've got to figure out how to work across party lines. I'm on the board of visitors of the Merchant Marine Academy. I've got a big problem in my district in the Bethpage area from the Navy Grumman Plume. 40 years it's been there, Superfund site, state Superfund site, the responsible part. One of the reasons that I asked for armed services is because the Navy and Grumman are the responsible parties for the pollution that has been there for 40 years, and it's moving further south down towards Massapequa now. It's a very big issue. Because it's moving to Massapequa, I got Peter King involved, because I know that he's got influence with the Republican Party. I know he's not popular with probably a lot of people in this room, but he's been around for a long time, and we're going to try and get his help to help us with this issue. there's a whole bunch of other issues in the district. Is anybody from Queens here? Anybody from Queens in the room? Very big issue in northeastern Queens with for the people that live there. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff. I was told not to talk too long in the beginning of the meeting. When it comes to the president, he's the president of the United States of America. I firmly disagree with him on this healthcare business. I think they're just plain out wrong, and I'll explain why later on. I disagree with what's happening with immigration issues. I'm a very strong believer in a path to citizenship, and you can't push people underground because if immigrants fear and a county executive of a county with the lowest crime rate in America for any community over 500,000 people, and Glen Cove had half the crime rate of Nassau County. Community policing only works if the police have a relationship with the community. The community happens to involve a lot of people that are undocumented persons right now. If we push them underground and they're afraid of local law enforcement, when there's a crime and the cops can't go to speak to people because they're afraid they're going to say, give us your papers, you can't do local law enforcement. That's why gangs grow. If you are walking around with cash in your pocket and you get robbed and you're afraid to go to the cops, where do you go for protection? Go to the gang. Same guys are probably threatening you in the first place. That's a very big problem. I used to have a battle with Steve Levy when he was the county executive of Suffolk. I was the county executive of Nassau because he was very anti-immigrant. I was very pro-immigrant and trying to deal with this issue. Path to citizenship, very important. So I strongly disagree with the president on that. I disagree on the whole Muslim thing. And I disagree with that more now than ever that I've been on the Foreign Affairs Committee and I've been speaking to the ambassadors of Muslim majority countries and about the idea of trying to get the Muslim majority countries the Muslim majority countries that are not tolerant. It's very, very important. And the whole Russian thing I'm very concerned about. I don't know what the answer is, and we shouldn't jump to conclusions, but there's a lot of smoke there. And we need to constantly look at this, and we need people to put their country before their party. I quite frankly think it's getting to be a bigger and bigger issue all the time because we're not just doing what we said we would do, which is do this independent investigation. I actually have a bill that I'm sponsoring that I'll be doing in a week or two that puts someone in the State Department who will look at the Russian activity in Europe and Eastern Europe. And I'm saying to the Republicans, I say, listen, you can be against Russia without saying you're against the president, but we need to start investigating what the Russians are doing all over the world to use propaganda and to use very wealthy people that made billions of dollars in Russia, and they're spreading the money all over the world to try and destabilize countries. And so we need to get to the bottom of that. We don't have to make it about the president, but we need to watch what's going on with Russia. It's pretty serious stuff. It's a whole culture of corruption that they are trying to spread that culture throughout the world with billions of dollars. If it leads back to the United States of America, which it could, if what they're saying is true, so be it. But we have to get on top of this. And I'm very, very strongly opposed to all the issues related to the environment. I was the New York State Environmentalist of the Year by the New York League of Conservation Voters. So I will always fight to protect the environment and do everything I can to protect the environment. Now, when it comes to working across party lines, there's 105 million full-time jobs in America. 105 million full-time jobs. Of those 105 million full-time jobs, 59 million people make less than $50,000 a year. 86 million people make less than $75,000 a year. So when you look at the map on election night and you see the coasts, the blue here and the blue there, and it's all this big swath of red in the middle, and it's right here on Long Island as well, there's a lot of people out there that have been left behind by globalization and by technology. And I'm as guilty as anybody else of saying, we got to push college, and we have to push STEM, we have to push science and technology and engineering and math. And we do need to do that, but it's only half the story. Because more than 50% of Americans have a high school education or less. And we need to be pushing trade schools and BOCES here on Long Island, for example. We need to be pushing union apprenticeship jobs. We need to recognize that not everybody's supposed to go to college. I think this is one of your... He's got a phone listening. Anyway, he's got a funny thing. Anyway, so not everybody's meant to go to college. And you know what? I met with 3 guys. I wrote this op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal. I said, if you're going to talk about corporate tax reform, you're going to talk about income tax reform, and you're going to talk about infrastructure and regulatory reform, okay, we'll talk about it. But it better be to create jobs in America. Because corporations don't need to make more money. They're doing fine in the country. Look at the stock market. Wealthy people don't need more take-home pay. They're doing just fine. We don't need to do these things for any other reasons, but we need to create jobs here in America that pay enough money to live the American dream. Everything we do should be tied towards that agenda. And we need to figure out how to create jobs in this country to make it work again for all the people in this country. So to do that, we've got to learn to communicate with each other. So, okay, so I'm going to open it up for questions. Now, we only have one microphone? Okay, we only have one microphone, so it's going to be a little awkward. So people who want to ask questions, line up on the wall over here, and we'll go in order, and state who you are, where you're from, and what your question is.
Abby G. Burton, and I'm from Plainview. Flower child with a few petals still left on me. And a whole bunch of thorns. First of all,
you can't have a rose without a thorn.
kudos to you for actually showing up at your town hall meetings. So you touched on something that's very concerning to me in terms of the political divide. Back in the day, there was an aisle between the Republicans and the Democrats. Now there's a chasm. And I appreciate the answer you've given at other voting for a bill that a Republican was a part of. And your answer was issue-oriented. I'm not just going to vote down because there's a Republican. That's on the congressional level. What can we do to get rid of the partisanship in order to find common ground? Because that's the only way we're going to save this country.
It was a short question. Beginning. Sign up for a group. Sign up for the local political party that you want to be a part of. Sign up for an organization and talk to people. I mean, that's really how democracy works, is people talking to each other. It's not about yelling at each other and assuming that you know exactly what somebody thinks because of where they live or how they look or how they voted. Union members are supposed to be all pro-democratic, right? Union members? Well, 50% of the building trade unions voted for Donald Trump. 60% of the cops and firefighters voted for Donald Trump. So there's something going on in our country that people don't like what's happening. I tell the Republicans all the time, it wasn't your victory, it was Trump's victory. You happen to be benefiting from it. But the people are just as sick of you in Congress as they are of me in Congress. They're sick of everybody. They want people to get something done. So so it's important that people engage in conversations with people in respectful ways, and that they write letters to the paper and actually make an argument for what it is they're standing up for, and look at the issues and try and get people to see the merit of their ways. It's very hard to do. We're all moving around. We're all so fast. I mean, the internet, the TV, the cable. I watch the shows I like to watch. Very fast. The fact that you're at a town hall meeting is a big deal. You've been taking 2 hours out of your life to do this. And that's a great sign that you're interested and you care. Now you have to talk to your friends and neighbors and persuade them and thank you.
I'm Tony Savannah. I live in Northport. I have a question on the ban on the government negotiating Medicare drugs. There's a bill in the House right now by Congresswoman Baldwin. Are you going to sign on to that? They want to get rid of the ban that says you can't negotiate. Why that ever was put there, I'll never know.
I absolutely am 100% in support of what you're suggesting, which is that the government should be able to, just so everybody knows, the largest purchaser of prescription drugs in the world is the United States government because of Medicaid and Medicare. And there is a ban in place that says that the government is not allowed to negotiate a volume discount with the prescription drug companies. And I didn't actually know about that. I didn't actually know that bill is in place.
Her name is Baldwin. She's from Wisconsin.
Okay, can we? Is Mike in the room here? Okay, can we get that, please? Okay, and I will definitely support that. I can't believe the president, who said throughout his campaign that he supports the issue, Why that was not part of the healthcare debate, I will never know. But I will absolutely 100% support the idea of getting a volume discount on prescription drugs.
And the pharmaceutical industry is spending $78 million to date lobbying against.
Yeah, the pharmaceutical company is very, very powerful. When you look at what doesn't change in the country, I talk about this in my campaign a lot. We're talking about the same stuff for 30 or 40 years in this country. We're talking about gun violence. We're talking about climate change. We're talking about immigration reform. We're talking about prescription drugs and healthcare costs. We're talking about a lot of the same issues for 40 years. Follow the money. The reason the status quo does not change is because somebody's benefiting from the status quo. Someone likes the way it is now. And they will spend time and money and energy, and they're not counting on you showing up 200, 300 people at a time to fight for things. They're spending a lot of time and money to keep it the way it is now. There's people who are just want you to hate government. All government stinks. Everything's no good. It's all broken. You know why they want you to think that way? Because it keeps the status quo the way it is. Nothing gets done. It stays exactly the way it is now. When those people were shot in Orlando with the automatic weapon at the nightclub, the sale of automatic weapons went through the roof the next week. That's a multi-billion-dollar industry, gun violence. The climate change, oil and gas industry, health insurance, pharmaceutical companies, insurance companies. There's people that benefit from the way it is now. So you have to be able to communicate to people and talk to people about the merits of your ideas to try and persuade them. Let me just say this one thing. I apologize. I know there's a lot. This whole healthcare idea for the Republicans is that it's about freedom and choice. You should be free to decide whether or not you want to buy healthcare or not. You shouldn't be mandated to buy it. You should be free to choose what kind of healthcare coverage you want, whether you want to include mental health coverage or drug and alcohol addiction coverage or breast cancer coverage. You should be able to choose the package you want. Of course, a lot of young people are going to say, I choose not to buy health insurance. It's too expensive. I'll take the chance. I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Not just young people, older people as well. I'll save the money. I don't need it. I'm not going to get it. There are people that will choose to say, listen, I don't have a drug problem. I don't have a mental health problem. Nobody in my family gets cancer. I'm not going to buy that type of insurance. I don't need that. I can save some money by not buying it. Inevitably, some subset of those people will have those problems. And they'll go bankrupt. And they'll show up at the emergency room, and it'll be much more expensive to take care of them, and we all pay for it in the rest of society in the process. So you don't have a choice as to whether or not to do Social Security. Imagine if you had a choice about Social Security. How many people would say, I'm not going to save any money this year for my retirement. I'll do it in 5 years. I'll take care of it. Maybe I'll do it 10 years. And I'll put it off, because I can save. I need the money now. So for the societal good, we need people to have, healthy people and unhealthy people to have coverage, health insurance coverage. So that's what they're peddling, is freedom and choice. That's the big mantra. But we never get to the actual debate about what that freedom and choice is about. Okay.
My name is Anu McGee, and I'm from Green.
So if we could get the Republicans to do it, they could demand that he releases taxes. They have the power in the United States Congress, in the House of Representatives, from one of the subcommittees, I think it's Ways and Means, but I'm not sure. They have the power to demand that he releases tax returns. Every single week or two, the Democrats do a big process. They, ask matter of personal privilege, and they go through this whole thing saying this is a disgrace for the House and the integrity of the House and blah, blah, blah. And then they can say, no, you can't do that question. You can't bring that to the floor. So it's really just a matter of convincing some of our Republicans to demand that he releases tax returns. So that's just the practical reality of it. I mean, the Democrats are all united. I've signed on to all kinds of bills, for that kind of thing. It's just a big part of this is, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? We got to win. We got to win. If you win, you can do certain things. So we're not winning. We got to figure out how to win. Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Dolores Sadaka from East Williston. I have a question about our military. The president increased military spending in the budget, and a lot of people that I speak to think that because he increased the military, that our veterans are being taken care of with health care and mental health. So how can we divert some of those funds from military to people who really need it.
Okay, so that's a very big issue. It's the traditional guns and butter. The reason that people will not support my bill is to persuade people to split the cost. There are 7 million veterans covered by the VA right now. There are 20 million veterans in the United States of America. And there's a major bureaucracy that you have to go through in order to get supported. Could you imagine if you're a person in crisis contemplating suicide? So you've got to be in a really desperate condition to do that. People are, people don't like admitting that they have a mental health problem to begin with because of the stigma in society, so that makes it harder to begin with, even though one of the health problems. So first is the stigma that's they come out in their 20s and 30s, and they're fine and everything's great, and I'm ready to get out in the world, and you have to sign up within a certain number of years in order to enroll in the VA coverage. You sign up within 5 years. And then there's income eligibility requirements. And there's, you can get in if you were a combat veteran, or you had a Purple Heart, or you did this, you did that, and if you can prove that your injury is service-related. So if somebody lost a limb, or somebody was shot, or somebody has a wound or a burn from serving the military, it's obvious that they have a problem related to their military service. Mental health problems are not so obvious to people. A lot of people take these issues home at night, and they're by themselves. And they're hearing voices from the battlefield. And can you imagine being in crisis and you come and say, I need help, I gotta get some help. Well, we need you to fill out form 732, and we gotta check there whether you're eligible for this or that or that. And it becomes this really big bureaucratic maze. I mean, I've read the stuff. I'm a lawyer, a CPA, I'm a congressman. I had a hard time keeping up with what the requirements were. So we need to persuade people that this is an essential part of our obligation as Americans is to care for our veterans. And we have to figure out how to deal with the cost. Now the military, this is a big issue, and I'm trying to learn a lot about I'm trying to learn about the military stuff. It's very hard. I'm on the Armed Services Committee. It's not easy to get all the information. I have a fight with one of my staff members. I had to force him to help me dig up information. How many aircraft carriers do you think there are in the United States of America? 100, 10, 15? Any more guesses? How many? 11. 11 is the answer. 11 aircraft carriers and 1 being built. How many planes, how many aircraft does the United States military own? Who wants to guess? 3,000. Who else? 2,000. 4,000. 20,000. 1,500. 14,000 aircraft. 5,000 in the Air Force. 4,600 in the Army, of which 3,600 are helicopters, and the rest in the Navy and the Marines. So I'm trying to gather all this information as to what we... The Chief of Staff of the Air Force the other day as part of our committee. I said, he's talking about what equipment he needs. It's all... I'm talking too long. I got this long line. I'm sorry. But I said, how is the Air Force today? You've been in the Air Force for 30 years. How is the Air Force today compared to your whole life of service? He said, well, in 1991, before the Gulf War, we had 1 million airmen and women, and we had, and I can't remember the number, but many more squadrons. And I can't remember the exact, I think it was 134 squadrons, and they used 34 in the Gulf War. Now we have less squadrons, and many more of them are committed, and we only have 600,000 troops. He said, we have a lot less, but our equipment is much more sophisticated than it was back in those days. The problem is that some of the equipment's grounded because they don't have the parts. So balancing, what's the right thing to do? They're always presenting scenarios. We have to really rethink what's going on. This woman was holding up a sign before, the peace sign before. She left already. She's still here. But they're laying out. We have the war on terror going on right now, and I've really learned so much since I've been in office. And I'm very humbled and very sobered by the responsibility, because it's serious business. So we've got the war on terror. That's a really humongous obligation of this country. And all the saber rattling with North Korea and worrying about China and Russia and Iran are major factors. And the military's job is to be prepared for what if we have this conflagration of all these things at once, what would we do? That's very scary. and trying to balance, how do we be prepared, how do we do the right thing, how do we be responsible and spend money on healthcare and on things like healthcare and infrastructure and things that we need to do while being prepared military. This is something nobody's ever talked about. I didn't realize it before. The United States military budget is larger than the next 7 countries combined. No other military budget in the world, no other military in the world has the ability to operate on the other side of the world. Only the U.S. government can do that. Okay, they're telling me I'm talking too long. All right, Doc Spencer just got here, County Legislator Doc Spencer, sitting around the floor. Great American. Mary Tobin, who's the Deputy Mayor of Northport, is here as well. Let's give him a round of applause. Now the Village Administrator of Seacliff, Bruce Kennedy, is here. Let's give him a round of applause. Kevin O'Reilly's sister is here, who's running for, what is he running for? Highway Supervisor. And Dean Bennett's sister is here. Everybody's sending their sisters here tonight. Tracy and Joanne. Tracy Bennett is, her brother Dean Bennett is running for National Sergeant.
Send me more notes when I'm talking.
My name is Pamela Verity. I'm a parent from Comac, and I want to thank you for holding these town meetings and actually listening to your constituents. I like what you had to say about the vocational programs. This whole college and career readiness is a farce. The requirements on going to college are the same as children that are college bound, so I would love to have that conversation. I'm here to discuss the Trump-DeVos budget for education. It cuts $11 billion from public education. They want to get rid of or slash 22 programs that help kids K through 12. These include after-school programs, teacher training, class size reductions, physical education programs, foreign language programs, education technology, mental health services and bullying initiatives, AP courses, STEM education, and even Special Olympics. And it doesn't end there. As for our kids heading to college or those already up to their eyeballs in debt, the Trump-DeVos budget would totally eliminate public service loans in half, steal $4 million from the Pell Grant program, roll back student loan subsidies for low-income students. So tonight I would like to know what you can do to help us prevent these destructive cuts and how you feel about charter schools, vouchers, and all those programs that take money from our public schools, because public school, I truly believe, is the foundation to our democracy.
So I agree with you 100%, and I'm with you, and I'm going to fight that budget, those budget cuts, not just in that area, but in so many other areas. I'm going to fight it every way that I can. Let me just, the beginning you talked about the trade schools and stuff like that. I just want to talk about this Thursday. I had a meeting with the aeronautics and defense industry on Long Island. We have a huge aeronautics and defense industry on Long Island because it's left over from the old Grumman days. And we met with them. Turns out we have the largest amount of defense contracts in our congressional district of any congressional district in all of New York State. New York State is 14th in the country for defense contracts. Virginia is number 1 with $32 billion. New York is number 14 with $7 billion, of which $1.7 billion is right here in our congressional district. Really related to all these old industries left over from the old Grumman days. There's a lot of big companies out here doing that type of work. And their big problem is they don't have enough computer machinists. They all agree that they need computer machinists. And I asked them, these computer machinists, you have to go to college for that? You have to become an engineer? She says, no, you can get a BOCES degree, or you can go to a trade school and become an apprentice, and you can make $80,000, $90,000 a year. So we're having a meeting on Thursday with 2 universities, Stony Brook, and I think Hofstra's coming. Is Hofstra coming? Hofstra coming? Farmingdale coming. We have the Plainview Composite Center, and we have BOCES from Nassau and Suffolk County, and the people from the industry, and we're going to talk about creating a pipeline of students to go into those jobs.
Suffolk community's already doing it.
Yeah.
Every child has to pass 5 regions in order to get out of high school.
Yeah.
So they won't be able to go for those jobs.
Well, we'll talk. You're invited to the meeting if you want to come, but we're going to talk about those specific issues, how to create this pipeline of employees for these companies and create jobs for people. I wrote an op-ed piece saying that we need to create 5,080,000 jobs in America. I just threw that out as a vehicle when looking at the 59 million people that make less than $50,000 a year. I'm going to fight against the cuts in education. As far as charter schools, I think they were a good idea when it first started out because it made people wake up to the problems in education, especially in metropolitan areas like the city. But I think that we've done enough of it, and we need to start getting the public schools up and running properly now. I've followed a lot of education issues when I was county executive, and I was appointed by Elliot Spitzer as chairman of the New York State Commission on Property Tax Relief, and I studied it. We have too many mandates in New York State for our schools. We need to change from, and this is for the federal government as well, the federal government is way too overloaded with stuff, and the state government, especially New York, is way too overloaded with mandates. And we need to set up guidelines instead of mandates. And places that do well, we should leave them alone and encourage them to keep on going on. People that are failing, we should go in there with SWAT teams and start putting mandates in place and help them to fix the problems that they have. But right now, we spend way too much. We spend more in New York State than any state in the United States of America per student. And yet our results are somewhere near middle or under the middle. And we can't afford, in New York State especially, to lose that federal funding, because often that federal funding goes to the lowest performing students that need the most help. And I have a whole big thing about drugs, alcohol, and mental health and bringing social services into the schools, because the schools will never have the resources, ever. You know, that's a long story I won't talk about now, but okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Alba Gamble. I'm from Glen Cove.
Oh, I
Hi.
can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I'm from Glen Cove. My concern is all the harbors and rivers on Long Island and the possible cuts to the EPA with the new budget and how that will affect Long Island. I mean, we're in Ireland.
Yes.
It's nothing but the water.
Alba is concerned about the water, and the budget that was just passed increased the Long Island Sound funding from $4 million to $8 million. And I was part of that effort, working on, I'm the co-chairperson of the bipartisan Long Island Sound Caucus. It's me, Lee Zeldin, and Rosa DeLauro from Connecticut. But we got an increase in funding for the Long Island Sound. But the new budget that's being proposed is to eliminate the funding for fixing up the Long Island Sound altogether. It's a very big issue in Northport. I was just talking with the mayor today, and I've talked with the deputy mayor in the past, about the major problem they have with nitrogen. They've retrofitted their sewage treatment plant at great expense to the village, but with tremendous help from the state and federal governments and county government. But there's people that are still not sewered that are near the waterfront, and they need to get money to try and re-sewer or put in modern cesspools in place. They don't do that here, but in other places, modern cesspools, to try and reduce the nitrogen loading into the Long Island Sound. The big problem in the Long Island Sound is really nitrogen. That's the big problem, just so you know. Nitrogen is what's in fertilizer. It's what's in the manure when you do your tomato plants. It's, you know, that's nitrogen makes things grow. When that nitrogen from the fertilizer or from the golf courses or from farms runs off into the water, it causes the microscopic organisms to grow. Those things grow, the tiny plant life grows, then it dies, it sinks to the bottom. When it sinks to the bottom, to decompose, it eats up the oxygen. That causes hypoxia. That's what kills lobsters and other types of fish. We think it was something else related to the West Nile virus as well. But hypoxia, which is because there's too much growth from too much nitrogen in the Long Island Sound. So to address these problems, you need money. The president is talking about cutting all the money for these different programs. I'm hoping that as part of the infrastructure plan for the country that's proposed, that there'll be money available for villages and counties and towns and states to do major infrastructure projects related to sewers. Water is a big issue on Long Island. Roads, bridges, airports, mass transit. We need to have that to not only create jobs, but to address some serious long-term problems that we have. The infrastructure plan is a major problem that the Problem Solvers Caucus is trying to address. It's one of our main agenda items because we think we can find bipartisan support for infrastructure funding in America.
Hello, my name is Nancy Gamby. I'm from Comac, and I have two things to tell you. First of all, I feel extremely uncomfortable in this room. I had to go on your campaign site to even know about this. On your regular site, I don't know about it. I am a Republican. I did vote for Donald Trump, and I know I probably am hated by most of this room. But when you keep mentioning things and the booing and stuff, it makes it very difficult to have a conversation, because I love my country as much as you love your country. I am concerned about my area as much as you. I am concerned about my water. And a lot of the things that makes the nitrogen level so high in Suffolk County, and especially, is we keep putting higher and higher density housing every single place. I have a 3-page list of all the high density projects just in the last couple of years. And we're killing our water. And I need to drink it as well as your family needs to drink it. It's very important. But, you know, you say you're bipartisan, but everything, I hear the digs. I have to go and chase things down from you. And it just makes it more and more difficult. I know we're in a really high-charge situation, but you guys all turned around and you booed Lee Zeldin, and he's a good man. You might not agree with where you see, but this is what I mean. This is what I mean. I'm trying to have a normal discussion. I have never sat there and booed anyone who's getting up here to speak. I think everybody has a right to speak, but just since I've been in the room this evening, it's been extremely uncomfortable. I mean, the campaign music and all this stuff. You are my congressman. I did not vote for you. I wish you well. I hope that you can take care of our district with, you know, as much, you know, we disagree on almost everything. I'm just trying to be honest. But I want to be able to drink my water. I want my child to be safe. I want MS-13 gangs being taken care of. We have people being murdered. In Huntington Station, you know, in Greenlawn, you had somebody whose head was cut off that was strung up on a playground. I get up, I talk at town hall, I go to my local officials in Huntington where I am ignored, but I do speak. And I speak so that other people can have a voice and feel empowered. And I encourage you all to do the same, as I am, trying to be respectful of you, even though I disagree. But I wish you would go out of your way to put town hall meetings on your regular site where other people, because how many Republicans are in this room? Me and Bill. Okay, we got two other brave people, 3, 4. You know, so okay, we have 5 people willing to raise their hand, but how did they find out? They had to go to your website for your campaign. And I'm not on very many campaign websites.
I want to answer that question too. How many independents are in the room? Raise your hands.
Okay, and how many Democrats versus the 5 Republicans? Okay, and our district isn't that.
How many Americans are in the room?
All right, and I think we need a little more of that. Yes, yeah.
She made her point. Okay, so listen, that's first of all, it takes guts to stand up in a room like this, so we appreciate that. And Nancy, there are really very strict ethical rules that I totally disagree with as to what you can do politically and what you can do governmentally.
But then it should be on your regular site.
No, I'm not. Not all the other people do. Some people aren't doing any town halls. Okay, so I'm doing a town hall every single month. So I am doing this from my political side, not from my governmental side. So I don't have to be careful about the things that I say, or signing up people, or getting them involved, or encouraging them to write letters to the paper, or encouraging them to do people to get registered to vote. Okay, but I have it on my Facebook page. I have it. We do press releases. Did we do a press release on
Yes,
this?
we did. Twitter.
We did a press release. We did Twitter. We did emails. Did we do emails?
Yes. You can't do it from your congressional.
The same way. Just because Republicans.
Well, she's saying that because if you're not supporting me, why would you be looking at my Facebook page? I guess so.
But you're the representative.
I mean, now I know I
Troll.
Look at the Facebook page.
Tom,
Right.
And taxpayer money is not paying for this.
Yeah, no, I want to make that clear. There's no taxpayer money being spent on my town halls. This is all done through my campaign stuff. Anyway, so listen, you made my point that I made at the beginning of the meeting. You're right about what you're saying, that we need to talk to each other. And we'll do a better job of trying to reach out to get Republicans. I think the mayor's a Republican. Aren't you a Republican? Huh? You're not a Republican? Independent? I'm going to find out what he is. Anyway, but you spoke up, and I'm very interested in fixing the water issues. I think that what we need on Long Island is one database that looks at the whole aquifer. Because right now, Suffolk is fortunate that they have the Suffolk County Water Authority. Nassau, it's all little groups of water districts, and it's all the same aquifer. And we need to have a better understanding of what's going on with our geology of our water here on Long Island. Engineers, the town of Oyster Bay, the Peter King actually came to the meeting, Grumman, the Navy, a bunch of other people, all about this issue of the water from this particular plume. But I learned so much about it. I had environmental activists come to the meeting. And I didn't do it for press. I did it to figure out what was actually going on with the problem. So I'm very interested in that issue, and we'll work on it tooth and nail. And as far as the gangs go, that's the point I was making earlier. You can't push people underground. If you push people underground, they'll join the gangs. You don't see this stuff happening. Well, I'm not going to. Okay. All right.
How are you? My name is Mariana Pineda. I don't live in your district, but unfortunately my congressman is Peter King, and he has yet to hold a town hall. So I'm coming to you because the issue that I have is an issue that affects everybody in this room, everybody in this state, everybody in this country. You've talked about health care repeatedly. You've talked about the bureaucracy that veterans have to navigate in order to get health care. Crisis, and we know that Suffolk County has the highest rate of opioid-related deaths in all of the state. And all of these things have one thing in common, and that's access to affordable, quality health care. Now, you've gone on the record and you've said that you support single-payer health care, yet you have yet to co-sponsor Medicare for all. So, I want to understand why you won't stand with other Democrats, why you won't stand with other people, and provide this vital service for everybody. You've gone on the record and said healthcare is a human right. So put your money where your mouth is. There's 112 co-sponsors. Will you be 113? And if not, why not?
Thank you. I think it's actually 115 co-sponsors. So I am supportive of the concept of universal health care and single payer. And I stated that long before the movement that's happening right now happened. I talked about it during my campaign. The Republicans actually sent out a press release 2 weeks ago attacking me for what I've said in favor of universal health care. And there's a current... Well, I don't know if you know the bill that well, but it's really, we don't know how much it will cost, number one, because there's never been a CBO score on it. In addition to the 100 and some odd Democrats that are supporting it, there's about 75 Democrats that are not supporting it. There's 0 Republicans supporting it. What will happen with the 57% of Americans that currently get their health care from their employers? So they'll lose. Well, it won't necessarily be better because some people have very good health insurance. In addition. So in California right now, there's a bill in the legislature to do universal health care in California. The cost of California will be that universal health care in California. Well, we don't know that because nobody's actually done the math on it yet. So it will, you talked about veterans. It will defund the veterans program and put the veterans program in limbo under the way that it currently is. So I've signed a pledge saying that I'm supportive of universal health care.
What does that pledge mean?
It means, well, the pledge was that if the Democrats actually won the majority, that I would work to support a universal health care. Makes sense. How many people here want to see their income taxes go up?
So Congressman, I'm a public school teacher. I'm a single parent. I have 4 children. My premium is $350 every paycheck, twice a month. I pay $7.
Which is relatively inexpensive compared to what a lot of other people pay. And you have great health insurance. You have the best, as good as the Empire Blue Cross program you have right now.
Universal health care would be 0 copays and 0 premiums. Take a look and and all of
So
you
what
go
happens?
home and look at the legislation.
So what?
Senate Bill 48 possibilities are out there.
Okay, so what happens? So we need to answer some questions. What happens to the people that have health insurance now that wouldn't like that plan, and how it would affect their plan? Well, how much is it going to cost?
Read Friedman's economic analysis.
Tom Friedman?
Gerald Friedman.
I don't know. I'm supportive of the.
You take the profit out of the insurance companies.
No, listen. The concept of universal health care, I have always. Okay, I have always supported the concept from an academic perspective of universal health care because you take out the profit motive, you take out a huge part of the bureaucracy that goes into private health insurance right now. You make health care universally covered. That's a very positive outcome. It actually reduces cost in the process. But you have to recognize that there's a big argument on the other side. And the argument on the other side is people will lose their existing health insurance. Some people like their existing health insurance. You will raise people's taxes, and some people will be very upset that you're raising their taxes. You will not get it introduced. This bill, if you had 190 Democrats sponsoring it, which you don't, you won't get it. And we don't have any idea of how much it'll cost yet. Now this debate has been good. This is not the first time this debate has happened in this country, and I applaud the people that are fighting for this and are organizing on behalf of this, okay? It's good. But let's continue to educate people as to what the outcomes of this would be and try and get more people on our side to try and get it done. But right now, the evidence is not there. There's a reason that a lot of people are not supporting this. So,
Wait your turn.
it's actually more than that. It's more than that. It's more than that. So there will be a very strong argument made if we were to do something like this about long lines and about rationing and about socializing. Okay, listen, everybody's so confident. Everybody's so confident that this is so wrong and so bad, okay? But this has been going on for 50 years in this country, this debate, for 50 years, okay? And right now, we're not winning, we're losing, okay? So we have to figure out how to win. I'm sorry, sir?
The Republicans have gone after Obama's health care plan every week, every day, for 8 years. So where are the people in our government and the Democratic Party fighting, not just...
Watch C-SPAN. It happens every single day. Happens every single day.
I'm a veteran. I had to go to Northport for health care. I know you say health is a life and death issue, but it seems taxes are more important than death. We need to address the death issue. For the richest country in the world, Europe has the best system in the world.
Okay.
Hi, Congressman.
He's
Jason.
a doctor, but he's not a scientist. He's a scientist, not a medical doctor.
Jason from Cold Spring Harbor. So Bernie Sanders recently introduced the Raise the Wages Act, which would gradually increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2024. It has, I think, about 150 co-sponsors in the House, and I was wondering what you thought on this bill and what you thought about the fight to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour.
I support raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour.
I don't think so.
Have I, Mike? We got to look it up. There's literally thousands of bills, just so you know. Thousands.
Thank you very much. I don't actually have a question as much as I would like to make a statement. My name is Kathleen Young, and I listened to George W. Bush today on the radio. He's really quite a funny man. And he said, the office of president is far more important than its occupant. And I loved that. With its present occupant now in the White House, he appears far worse than we could have imagined during the campaign. And I feel, and I think other people do, that our democracy is in peril. As a party legislator, what can you...
Well, town halls are a big part of it, and getting people involved is a big part of it. You know, there's constant efforts to the chagrin of some people in the country, but you know, he's the president, and he's got the majority in the Senate and the majority in the House. I encourage you. I know it's hard. Try and watch C-SPAN, because you know, you'd be shocked at how smart some of the people are that represent you, that are really doing good things exactly the way that you're looking for to be done.
You're not referring to Louis Gohmert, are you?
No. So it's just we just got to keep on pushing, and we have to be organized, and we have to win. I mean, you got to win. If you don't win, you don't get your way.
To make sure we keep the third.
Yeah, keep the third, right? Keep the third especially.
Thank you, Tom.
Presuming that it's yours, right? It's a big presumption.
I'm Marvin from Syosset, and I'd like to talk about your problem solvers caucus for a minute. I think it's a good idea if Hillary won, or Marco Rubio won, or even crazy Ted Cruz won, but they didn't win. Somebody else won, and with all due respect, the person in the White House now is inept, unprepared, ruthless. He's a sociopath. And I think most people are coming to agree with that. And therefore, he becomes a cancer in the White House, cancer on the country. And if we anthropomorphize that for a minute, if you have bad knees, but you have cancer, you treat the cancer first. You need eyeglasses, but you're dying of cancer, you treat the cancer first. The Problem Solvers Club, we need better water. But what good is better water if you ruins the climate for the entire world? And these are real potentials. What good is health care to the veterans who need it, mental health care they really need? But if we stop all mental health and physical health research, it's of no value. Are faced now with the biggest threat to this country ever. And I believe your priority, and the rest of the first and foremost, and maybe only, this cancer in the White House. Because everything else is secondary. If he does what he plans to do, nothing you're doing means anything. We don't need potholes fixed if we lose our souls. You know, it doesn't. I think everything you do, everything you do every day, every day this man in the White House is making ridiculous statements. Every day I want to hear you talking about those statements. Every single day. I don't want you to sit with a Republican on Meet the Press and talk about how you're going to fix the water when he's killing the climate. It should all be about the climate. It should all be about this. That's what I want you to do, Tom. And you're strong enough and smart enough to do it. And I think, in fact, politically, it'll help you. I think what you're doing now is going to hurt you. Because in the end, if we get a lot of the things that you want to do across the aisle to get done, in essence, you're helping this man win another 4 years. Your job is to get rid of this American Mussolini. First
Not true, not true. Not true. Not true.
First of all, I haven't been invited to be on Meet the Press yet. I'm waiting for the invitation. I disagree. I disagree. The country, as upset as some people are, many people are, as upset as I am about certain things. The first round of the healthcare debate, they were defeated in the House because the public came out. And it's taken a long time to get the bill to go from Congress. I don't even know if they've actually sent it from Congress to the Senate yet, because...
After the score, they sent it.
Are you sure they sent it? You certain? Mike, find out, will you please? And the Senate, many of the Republicans in the Senate are speaking the way the Democrats are speaking. about why this is a problem. I heard Susan Collins on TV saying one thing she wants to do when she works to correct this bill is she wants to see what we can do about the other 20 million people in America that still don't have health insurance. So, okay, but the system is working in that particular respect. When it came to the Muslim ban that the president proposed, the courts stopped it from happening because they said it was unconstitutional. The three branches of government were working. So I'll continue to, I don't think that you could hear any more on television or hear any more about the president and Kushner and Flynn and all the Russian stuff than you're hearing. I don't think you could possibly hear any more than you're hearing.
With all due respect, Tom, the checks and balances that we have only work when there are people who can do the checking and the balancing.
That's what's happening. What's actually happened? We just passed a continuing resolution. The Problem Solvers Caucus had a big part of doing it, which actually State Department, which protected the EPA. And the reason I believe, and a big reason that happened, was because early on in the process, in the middle of the health care debate, when the Freedom Caucus was controlling the entire debate, the Problem Solvers Caucus got 44 votes that said, we will support the budget for the remainder of this year if there are no ideological items in there. If you don't try and put the wall in, funding the wall, and if the Democrats don't try and put anything in, if we just continue to fund the government. So instead of shutting down the government, I believe those 44 votes helped to get the budget passed for the rest of this year, because people work with each other. So I will fight when I disagree with something. I really will, and I have throughout my life. I've been doing this for a long time. I've devoted my life to this stuff. You know, I've been doing this for a long time. And I've been in a lot of fights. I fought Shelley Silver and Joe Bruno in the state Senate and the state assembly. I started FixAlbany.com. I was attacked mercilessly by my own party and others to fight against the corruption in Albany. When I ran against Elliot Spitzer, I was the scourge of the Democratic Party. Okay? When I ran against the Republican machine in Nassau County, these guys went after me like you wouldn't believe. I've been in lots of fights throughout my career to fight for things to make them happen. I'm more than happy to fight, but I'm going to have a strategy as to how I do it and what way I think to get it done is. Right now, I've got to serve my district. I've got to try and deliver for my district. I've got to try and bring money to the Northport VA. I've got to try and clean up the Bethpage plume. I've got to try and do things that I think I can get done. For example, I think that this mental health thing is something I can get Republican support on. I agree with you that climate change is an existential threat that we face. But I'm going to be more effective if I persuade some Republicans to see the merits of my way and join the Democrats, because it's only 20-something vote difference. If we get 20, about 20 Republicans, just 1 vote, 2 votes less than we needed, voted against the Republican health care plan. So we've got to be more effective in getting more people to join together, to work together on things that we believe in. So
I think it's far better if you're able to get him not to drop out of comparison.
I agree with, but I'm going to fight to get him to drop out. I'm against him getting out of the Paris Accord. Look at my video that I did on Ash Wednesday. It was the day after the president's speech, okay? I had the ashes on my head from church. And I tied in Climax's encyclical, Laudato Si. And I talked about our obligation we have to deal with the existential threats that we face in the environment. So I'm going to resend that out, as a matter of fact. Let's resend that out. Where's Mike? I want you to know that in Washington, in Washington, I have to get my own apartment, okay? They don't give you an apartment. So I have an apartment in Washington, D.C. It's expensive, of course. So I share the apartment with 2 other congressmen. It's me, a guy named Jimmy Panetta, who's Leon Panetta's son. You like Jimmy Panetta better because he's very far left. He's from California. Josh Gottheimer, you'd be madder at him than you're at me. He's in the most targeted seat in America. He's in a Republican seat, really, but he won as a Democrat. Josh Gottheimer from New Jersey. So with 3 roommates that live together. And Mike comes down to Washington like every other week or so. He's my chief of staff. And when he comes down, he sleeps in my walk-in closet. So the other guys make fun of me because they're like, we'll be talking when we talk. Anyway, so about that.
My name is Margaret D'Ambrosio on the Affordable Care Act, known also as the Obamacare. as it impacts my own family. My daughter is married and has a teenage son. Her husband is self-employed. So for years, they've been having to buy private insurance. Do you know how much it's cost them every single month? Just under $2,000 per month. You multiply that by 12 months. I don't think too many people in the middle class can afford over $20,000 a year. So, when the Affordable Care Act was enacted, they bought into the subsidies in the public marketplace in New York State. The three of them, husband, wife, and son, were covered for about $750 a month, almost a third of what they had been paying to the private insurance. So I'm very concerned on behalf of my daughter's family at the fate of the Affordable Care Act, because that would really impact very severely on my daughter's standard of living, where they have to part with about 1/3 of a husband's yearly income. So we are very concerned about this. She called, she happens to live in Sayville, and Mr. Peter King is her congressman. He couldn't care less about her problem. So I am very much concerned, because I know that there is the Republican version of an American health plan that is watered down. It has expelled all the major health benefits that are considered normal. It has thrown off, or will throw off, 23 million people. In fact, the bill only is supported by 20% of Americans. You can see that most Americans think it's a rotten bill. So I'd like to see what action will be taken. There's about 8 or 10 Republicans that are moderates that we are writing letters to and telephoning and getting our views across, because they appear to be persuadable that health insurance is not a luxury, it's a basic need. And you know, the United States is only the 3 countries that are democratic and industrial that does not offer universal health care. There's something wrong when the biggest country in the world can't do better. Recently, there was a long article in the New York Times about 2 months ago by a woman who was very knowledgeable about health care. She happened to be a native of Finland and now is in America and is an American citizen. And she wrote a terrific essay in the Times of Sunday about 2 months ago, showing how they deal with universal health care in her country successfully. And that goes for many other countries. The United States shouldn't be proud of its health care.
Thank you, Mrs. Ambrosio. Where do you live, Mrs. Ambrosio? Mrs. Ambrosio, where do you live? Okay, we wanted you to do a television commercial. Okay? All right, very good. Very good. A lot of Ambrosios in Glen Cove also. Okay, well, she's right. So let's give her another thank you. That was a very excellent point.
Hello, my name is Hallie Brenner. I'm from East Northport, and I first just wanted to say thank you for coming here to do this. I know you're doing it every month, and there are a lot of your colleagues, unfortunately, right here on Long Island who will never meet with their constituents. So I do want to say thank you, because you're hearing us, you're listening, and you're giving us your ideas too, so I really do appreciate that. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I volunteered this fall a lot of my time for your campaign, for Hillary Clinton's campaign, these past few weeks. I volunteered for Christine Pellegrino's campaign. And one thing that concerned me with voters I talked to in all 3 campaigns, and I was calling people and knocking on doors, is that there were a lot of people, and particularly a lot of older Americans and very young Americans also, who said that they weren't planning on voting in this past election, and that they weren't planning on voting when I was volunteering for Christine Pellegrino's campaign too. And when I asked them why, they said, well, I just don't really see a difference between the 2 parties. And here's the thing, I don't agree with them at all. And when I would actually talk to people and say, well, tell me some issues you care about, and I could talk to them and explain to them why I think there's a difference between the two parties, and I really do. But there are a lot of people out there who feel that way. And I think that part of the reason why they feel that way is because, just as an example, the 3-week about time period that the Republicans first tried to get a vote on their health care bill, and they didn't have enough votes. There was about maybe 3 weeks between that time and when they did pass the bill. And in those 3 weeks, I'm not saying that Democrats weren't working hard on lots of issues, and they did certainly stand together against this health care bill. But I think what the American people need to hear is strength and courage and bold answers that terrible. Go out there and talk to people, as you're doing, but go out there and talk to people and also suggest how we can fix. The Affordable Care Act was a wonderful first step, but how we can fix the problems with people who still don't have health insurance. Even if the Democrats don't have the perfect solution right now, but just to say, here's what we're thinking about, whether it's right now we need bold leadership. I kind of agree with what the gentleman said about the Republicans, constantly were voting against the Affordable Care Act, but right now I think what Americans can come together on health care. Republicans and Democrats have family members with pre-existing conditions and kids who are getting out of college who need health care, and I know Republicans and Democrats who are very concerned about climate change, very concerned about our drinking water. There are issues where Democrats can unite us, but they have to lead with compassion and real strength right now.
First of all, thank you for volunteering on my campaign. I really appreciate it. And there is a big problem that nobody votes, pays attention. There's a lot of different reasons for that. In my race for Congress, 320,000 people voted. It's expected in 2018 that only 160,000 will vote, half the number of people, because it's an off-year election.
It's because also young people don't vote. I think,
It's not.
And they don't vote.
That's right. Well, they didn't vote in the last election, and they really don't vote in the off-year elections. So the number of votes went from 320,000. It's projected to go down to 160,000. I can't emphasize this enough. 320,000 down to 160,000 in 2018. So that's why I'm one of the targeted seats in the country, because I'm in a D+1 district. I have a 1% margin that's likely in my race. That's why the Republicans are targeting me. That's why this guy's filming me in the back every day. So hold on 1 second, please. Another problem is that nobody votes in primaries. Okay, there are 750,000 people live in the district. All over the country, less than 10%, 12% of the people vote in primaries. So to win a Democratic primary, you got to go way to the left. To win a Republican primary, you got to go way to the right. Most of the seats in the country are safe seats. They're either all Democratic or all Republican. There's 190 Democratic seats in the country. 170 of them, 190 something, 94? There's 170 of them are safe Democratic seats. They don't have to worry about appealing to the independents and the moderate Republicans, because they just will win because they're a Democrat. They just got to win the primary, and very few people vote in the primary. As opposed to my district, where I can't win unless I get independents and moderate Republicans to vote for me. And other places like that in the country, but it's very few seats. One of the reasons we have this big divide in our country is because you have the left very activated, the right is very activated, the people in the middle are not activated. They're not paying attention, they don't vote. That's why it's so important and amazing that so many people are showing up for these meetings and are paying attention like never before. So there clearly are huge differences between Democrats and Republicans. There are major issues that we disagree with. The problem is everybody's just so sick of the system, and there are people that want you to be sick of the system. They want you to hate the whole thing because they want to keep the status quo. They like the status quo the way it is. They're benefiting from the status quo the way it is. So the best way to get people to pay attention and get involved is like the woman said, when she called people up, she talked to them on the phone, are you still here? Did she leave? Is you got to call them up and talk to them on the phone and do that in your regular life. Is talk to people. Somebody goes, I won't talk about politics at the dinner. We all grew up saying, don't talk about politics and religion at the dinner table, okay? Well, it doesn't work unless you do that. So, anybody who wants to talk about religion later, let me know.
Council Chair? I don't want to be the guy. Good evening, Congressman. My name is Mike Unger. I'm from Northport. I don't want to talk about religion. I want to talk about the Long Island Railroad. You used to commute into the city, so you know the schlep. It's only gotten worse. Every day, I get a dozen emails alerting me about signal problems, track problems, train derailments, all kinds of things. They're now going to do some repair work in Penn Station, and the way Amtrak's got it set up, that is going to favor the New Jersey commuters and disfavor the Long Island commuters. And a lot of people in your district, they commute in every day. So what can you do to make sure that the commuting is not as badly affected as it inevitably has to be?
Why do you say that the New Jersey commuters are being favored over those the Long Island Railroad commuters?
The improvements that are being made in Penn Station, they're actually going to, in order to service 3 platforms and 2 tracks for the New Jersey transit, they're going to have to cut Long Island Railroad service while they do that. And they're going to be cutting that service during the week, which is going to, during rush hour. I mean, we have enough problems. So what can be done? I asked you to look into that. I know it's not something off the top of your head.
No. Okay, this is a major issue. Okay, this is something that I am focused. I was not going to get involved in this issue. I was going to stay out of this issue, and I did that when I was county executive. Like when the railroad came up or the utilities came up, I would say that's their problem. I'm not going to just try and score political points. But it got so bad that I started to get involved in the issue, and I called up the head of Amtrak and I spoke to him. Wick Mormon is the guy's name. He spent 40 years with the Norfolk Suffolk Railroad Company, and they had to persuade him to take this job. He's only been there for a year, and he's like a real trained guy. He really knows. He's a professional man who knows what he's talking about. But he's an engineer, and engineers are just terrible communicators. I mean, it's just a general rule. And I called up the president of Long Island Railroad, who's another trained guy, real professional, knows what he's talking about, but like awful communicator. Even when I was talking to him, I was like, "What are you saying? What are you saying?" So I actually got a letter from the head of the Amtrak just today on the way here, and I have not read it yet. It's like a 4-page letter. It's all single-spaced and no space. It's very terribly written. But I haven't even read it yet. So when I spoke to trained professionals about this issue, they told me when it comes to the Long Island Railroad that only 10% of the trains will be affected, not the 25% that they announced in the paper. And we're waiting to hear what the actual schedule is. So I will call again tomorrow after I read this letter from the Amtrak guy to discuss what the percentage of trains that will be affected will be, number one. And number two, the thing that they're doing very poorly is communicating what the plan is and how it will work. Just so people understand, how many people actually use the railroad? Raise your hand if you actually use the railroad. It's amazing that they're here. So my train line in Glen Cove was like the worst train line in the world. In 1900, it took an hour to get from Glen Cove to Penn Station. Today it takes an hour and 10 minutes. I'm not kidding. So what happened was, it's this Penn Station is an incredibly busy place when compared to other places in the country. It's very old, it's very tightly compact, and it's very hard to work in that environment because the top is all covered with wires, and to work on this track, you got to stand on that track over here, so it's very tight space. So their plan was for a decade was to we'll work on the weekends, we'll work at night, we'll work at off-peak time to fix things here and there. Because of what's happened over the past 6 months, they've decided we got to go in and fix it now for real. And they have the money. They have $457 million or something like that available to do the work. So the money is there to actually do the work.
Can you get them to fix the
That's what they,
along the way.
that's what, well, I don't know if, no, that's not Amtrak, that's Long Island Railroad. So,
Cuomo said that he wanted to put it up for sale or something.
he wants to do a public-private partnership. So I had a call with the governor the other day and the other Congress people. I told the governor that I would support what he wants to do, only because of the fact that the governor has demonstrated that he can do big projects. He's good at getting big projects done and cutting through the bureaucracy. But I've been waiting to hear about this 25% versus 10% of the trains, because it's going to affect, that's what will really affect people's real life. And they have to provide, whatever they're going to close, not provide a train, they have to provide a clear alternative, and they have to communicate to people so you can change your plans, so you're not either going to work that day or you're taking a different route to get there that particular day. And that's all about communication, with you're not good at communicating. That's their worst skill set, is communication. So I promise that I will call tomorrow, Mike, to make sure that I speak to them to find out exactly what the plan is, and I'll communicate something on my Facebook page, my government Facebook page. So because I'm in a political place, I cannot ask you to go on my governmental Facebook page, okay? But I have two Facebook pages. I have a political Facebook page, which is Tom Suozzi, and I have a governmental face page, which I can't tell you what it is.
Tom Suozzi.
But you can, but you know, you should look at both sites really. I'll have something up there tomorrow. Probably late in the day tomorrow, or if not tomorrow, the next day. But I'll make sure I have it today or tomorrow. I mean tomorrow then.
Hi, thank you. I'm Alex from Comac, and I have a specific question about student loan debt. So after I received my master's degree, I returned home to our district and dedicated my career to public service. And for me, it's really been an honor to use my education and skills to give back to our community. Urban planning and disaster relief as well. And so part of the reason I've been able to do that is because of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, which was mentioned. And under that program, I'm able to make affordable payments towards my student loan debt with the promise from our government that the remaining balance after 10 years will be forgiven. And that's enabled me and other teachers and public servants to put savings away every month, which I hope to be able to use for a down payment one day. And now, unfortunately, Trump and DeVos proposed getting rid of that program. And what that would do is stick teachers and public servants with these huge bills of debts that have been ballooning because of the interest that the government charges us on that money. And for those of us that have made years of financial and employment decisions would be financially ruined as a result. So I wanted to ask what your position was on the public service loan forgiveness program, especially how it relates to people who have been invested in the program for years. Thanks.
I'm 100% on your team, and I need you to start a Facebook page and get other people interested in this issue and start educating, because I didn't even realize that was being cut as part of this budget. I mean, there's so many things being cut, I didn't even know that particular thing was being cut. So you need to start using social media and get other people that are in your same situation to educate people about the fact that this is going on. You know, there's such a challenge for communication these days because we're all being bombarded with so many messages. But, you know, social media is a great blessing as well as a curse, but it's a great blessing if you try and organize to get people that are similarly situated to fight with you to educate elected officials about this particular issue. So I will fight for you on this issue, and I completely support it, and I commend you for being in public service. Our daughter Caroline is actually going to do public service as well. She just graduated from Fordham University this past week. She's going, I don't know if I'm allowed to tell this. I could get in trouble with telling. I better not tell. Okay. I'm going to get in trouble with my wife and daughter if I tell without asking first. But it's really cool. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay. Sutsriyakal.
Sutsriyakal. Okay, so my name is Simar Preet Singh, and I'm really glad that you agree with me that healthcare is a life and death issue, because that's very important to me. Now, a lot of politicians say all these things to get elected, like I'm for healthcare and all blah, 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 right? They talk the talk, but when it comes time to put up, they betray us, right? So my problem is you're not supporting HR 676 because the tax increase. I don't understand how you could ever implement single payer without a tax increase, so I don't know why you could say that. And when you talked about single payer, You talked about the people who like the system right now, but you didn't talk about the people that are suffering. There's 24 million people without health care. There's people with deductibles that can't even get to use the supposed health care they have. And there's people with skyrocketing premiums. What about them? I guess my question is, how could you be okay with that?
Thank you. So it's not that I'm okay with that. And right now we're in a major fight to keep the Affordable Care Act. That's a huge fight that we're in right now. And I've said that I support universal health care. But this particular bill, at this particular time, it doesn't make sense to do it at this time. Because we don't know how much it will cost. We don't know how people will be affected by it. There's not enough information about it. It will affect veterans in a bad way. It will cause income taxes to go up. And it will not be introduced in the House. This gentleman said before about how the Republicans fought against the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare every single year. They were in the majority in the House. That's how they they carried that message on a regular basis. They were able to introduce the bill on a regular basis. They're attacked because they were the majority of the House.
Friedman was a lousy economist, but he did say something once, and I'll paraphrase. You take what's impossible, you put it in play, because you want what's impossible. You put it in play, you pound it, you pound it, you pound it, and eventually the impossible becomes the inevitable.
And that's good it's good that you're doing that. It's good. I'm not saying you're wrong for what you're doing. It's good that you're doing that. We just need more information, more facts, and we need more people on the team. So,
Wait your turn.
Okay.
So, let's say you don't want to support that bill, but something you can do is actively support the bill that's going to come up for a vote in the Senate. So I wish you could talk to Simca Felder, right? Because we have 32 Democrats. Yeah. Please reach out to him. That's how you can prove to me that you really care. If you reach out to him and actively fight for it, not just say, I want to see you fight for it. We have a really good opportunity right now to educate people on single payer because of that terrible Republican health care bill. So this is the chance. You can do it right now. And I'd like to see you reach out to the state Democratic Party to support it, and some moderate Republicans if that's possible.
Thank you.
Hi, Congressman, thank you for speaking to us. My name is Eileen Karen, and this is Frank Markovitz, my friend Frank Markovitz. I live in Plainview, so does he.
The mic. The mic.
Oh, sorry. Usually I'm loud enough, it doesn't even matter. Frank is a survivor of laryngeal cancer, which is cancer of the vocal cords. Obviously it's a pre-existing condition. He wants to insist, and I insist too, that you protect health care and all other pre-existing conditions so that they're not thrown into a high-risk pool at huge increases in medical costs that will put health care out of reach of many people with pre-existing conditions. I also want to add that it may not be relevant, but Frank did grow up in Bethpage before the wells that were cleaned now were cleaned, and people get cancer, so it's hard to draw correlations. But he did spend his grow up drinking that water that was polluted for 40 years before he grew up. Right. Thank you.
I will continue to fight against this Republican bill with my heart and soul and everything that I can do. And maybe we could consider actually, because I forget who made the point before. They talked about all the energy that the Democrats had to fight the first round of the health care bill. And who was talking about that? Was that you? And then you know what happened actually, and I saw it happening myself, is we didn't know when they were bringing up the second time. We didn't know when they were bringing it up. And it was right after a long recess where we weren't actually in Washington, D.C. And that, whenever he's in Washington, D.C., and they're near like the cameras and they're talking on TV and stuff like that, and you're all talking to each other, it's a good time to like bring this stuff and organize, as opposed to when you're in the district and you're doing town hall meetings and you're doing meetings, I do meetings every day, all day long. And then I got to do the political stuff on top of that. It's just, there's so little time. There's so little time to do stuff, to actually sit and talk to people and research things, and because it's really an overwhelming amount of work. But I will fight. I'm going to do everything I can to fight against the Republican health care bill. I will fight to protect Obamacare. I will fight to mend it, not end it. And I will continue to look for ways as to how we can have universal health care in the country. I believe in it. I really do believe in it. But there's got to be strategy into the way you accomplish things. You guys have your strategy. I encourage you to continue your strategy. What you're doing is good. I applaud it. But we all have to do our different parts to try and get to where we need to go. But thank you very much, Fred. Thank you.
Hello, Representative. My name is Michael Como. I had the actually great honor to represent our congressional district, Congressional District 3, for Bernie Sanders at the DNC this past year. I also happen to own a business here in East Northport. It's actually a family business, and it has about 45 years here in East Northport. So I would just, add to that, S 4840 is in the New York State Senate. It is a New York State health care plan, and it is realizable if we do in fact have the political will to call your state senator. That is important. What I do want to raise a question on, and it's kind of a rejoinder from the previous question from your first town hall. At that time, they were putting appointments together for the Trump administration, and one of the people that was appointed was Ajit Pai. He is the head of Ajit Pai, who is the head of the FCC. All right, now this is an individual who has become very vehemently against net neutrality. It's precisely the issue that I raised at that time. Just this past week, we have now seen that there has been a successful attempt to reclassify the internet and internet service providers as now Title I rather than Title II protections. The long and the short of it is that is really opening the actual avenues for the systematic dismantling of free speech in this country. Now, it has many, many practical effects. It is in terms of national security. It is in terms of one's pocketbook. So if you talk about having a unlimited data service for your telephone, or if you have cell phone plans for your family, and you get a data overage, it was sold to you as something that is unlimited data. But then there are overages that do occur, and it turns into $200 and $300 and $400 bills. And that is additionally per month, and that is leveled upon the family. Now that is one reason for which it's an economic reason, and it's very much a butter kind of issue, if you want to call it that. But more to the point is that it also puts the ISPs, the internet service providers, in a position where they can in fact slow down one's internet based on the things that they choose to put forth. There was a very important case that happened between Netflix and Comcast, where Comcast was deliberately slowing down services for Netflix. That's maybe not so much a big deal, but it does mean quite a bit when you do in fact control access to information. And the principles of free speech upon which this country was actually founded, really at its core, are now being attacked. And this is now coming up for a vote in the Senate, and I realize that is not the chamber in which you serve. But as somebody who has come forth and said specifically that you do in fact support net neutrality, if you are considering, and I think you had said that this is a district that is at risk for you. If you do want to ensure people line up behind you, articulate that. Say it.
Net neutrality?
Absolutely. And ensure that that is something, because you know what, the kids ruin their internet and they'll be kind of pissed off. And that's what's up. So please do that.
What is the benefit to them slowing it down? Why do they slow? Do they save them money?
It is a manner of selling premium plans, right? It's a manner of, right, it's faster, but here's the thing though, is that this is infrastructure. Yeah, this is absolutely an infrastructural thing. Because if you do slow down, and if you give the ISP the ability to slow down messages that they do not like, you could, theoretically, and it's something that could very well be done. If you find a protest website, an organization that's trying to push something like single payer, and that is perhaps not the kind of thing that the ISP would like to support, they can in fact slow down this traffic. And this is critically important, not just in terms of, okay, any number of debates, and it's not about watching cat videos. It's literally about whether or not we can convey the information to people within this country and do it in an affordable way, and recognize that seemingly the administration wants to bring us back to 1898 rather than push us forward to the 21st century. And this is why we need to be doing this, and vocally, please.
Would you consider writing something on that, and then I'll repost it on my page?
I would love to.
Okay, so let's Mike. Okay. That's a good thing. Now, how many people are familiar with the issue as much as he just? Wow.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Very good.
Hi, I'm Tammy Green from Huntington. Nice to see you. I've been happy with a lot of the votes that you've had, but I do have a question, a couple of questions. First, what is your position regarding Dodd-Frank protections with regard to the SEC and CFTB in protecting average American investors, their accounts, so markets won't get kited again? Because there were two bills that you voted for, HR 78 and HR 238, which put obstacles in the way of these protections, and will put us right back at the starting point, back into a situation where we could have a meltdown in the markets again and everybody suffers. So what is your position on this and Dodd-Frank?
I'm very supportive of Dodd-Frank. There are some problems with Dodd-Frank, especially related to like smaller banks, community banks. And there are some arbitrage. I've been talking to some of the people on financial services about some of the limits. They said, there's certain banks that have to do certain things based upon how much money they have in the bank, the size of the bank, and they were very arbitrary decisions that they made. But as a general rule, I'm very supportive of Dodd-Frank. And right now, they were working on trying to do like this major gutting of Dodd-Frank. And I don't think it's going to go anywhere. And no, they just passed a bill to gut a bunch of stuff in the House. I voted against all that stuff.
Well, on those two particular bills that were voted on, which you voted for, they put obstacles in the way so that every single rule that they were debating would have to be, if they came up with an idea.
That's for new stuff.
Right. That's going forward. These are protections now.
Yeah, that was early on. Just in the past 2 or 3 weeks, the Financial Services Committee of one of my roommates actually works on it. There's like huge efforts to gut Dodd-Frank that are being proposed by the financial services, the Republicans. As a result, they're probably going to pass something in the House, which will be mainly Republican support, that will go to the Senate and it will get killed in the Senate. So it won't happen. There needs to be some amendments to Dodd-Frank. It's like the Affordable Care Act. It's like, mend it, don't end it. But as a general rule, we have to keep Dodd-Frank in place, and I will fight to keep it in place.
Congressman Suozzi, I want to thank you again for having this town hall this evening. My name is Darrell St. George, and I'm a veteran, and I served in Afghanistan, Congressman, and I recently, I was thinking to myself, I remember one time going on a patrol and I said to one of my Marines, anybody who doesn't believe in time travel, they just have to come to Afghanistan and see that it's like the Stone Age. And recently President Trump had given an order to drop the mother of all bombs in Afghanistan. And one of the things that really struck me was like, what's the purpose of this? Because again, and you've traveled to Afghanistan, you've seen the country.
I was there the day before they dropped the bomb.
And the thing that puzzled me is, what's the strategic value in this? And, yesterday we had Memorial Day. And, for a lot of my friends who were injured over there and people that we've lost over there, it's very disheartening for me to see what's happening in Afghanistan currently. I believe we're losing the fight over there. And I just don't think that dropping more bombs on Afghanistan is going to really defeat the Taliban and ISIS. So my question to you, as a member of the Armed Services Committee, what's your vision beyond dropping bombs on Afghanistan and Syria?
Thank you. So this is really complicated. What time is it now?
8:55.
8:55 already?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I didn't have dinner. So I had lunch. I had bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich at Shipwreck Diner. Let me just say that Northport's a really amazing community. The way everybody came together when the tavern burnt down, and I stopped over there today on my way when I was leaving, and they're actually starting to do the cleanup in the bar, and they're going to try and raise money to do it because they don't have insurance they have insurance for liability, but not for the other stuff. Anyway, so this is a very long, I don't know how to do this. The answer to all of our problems is not to keep on killing everybody, that's for sure. And that's really, you know, the mentality that exists right now because everybody's so scared. And, you know, but it's not to pull away either and just stop doing what we're doing altogether. That's not the answer either. In Afghanistan, America had over 100,000 troops there at one time. And there were other troops from other countries joining with us. So it's like 130, 140,000 troops. Right now, America has 8,500 troops in Afghanistan. And the mission has changed dramatically, where it was, you know, let's go in there and kill the bad guys, to let's try and train, assist, and advise the Afghans for them to create their own military and to build their own country. And there's a lot of challenges to doing that in Afghanistan as well as other places in the region, because everything's very tribal and it's very hard to promote a sense of nationalism, having their own government. There's a lot of corruption, and there's a 5-point plan for the next 4 years militarily in Afghanistan. One piece is to train the Afghan army to be more professional. They're actually fired a bunch of, there's 7 regions in Afghanistan. They fired a bunch of the generals in 2 of the regions recently. They're probably getting another one going soon. And trying to put professional people in there. And you think like Nassau County and Suffolk County politics is like, you know, patronage jobs and things like that. They put generals in these jobs because they come from a group that supported them in the elections. So it's a lot of politics in how they put their generals in place. But one thing is to train the army to be more professional. 2 is to teach their Air Force how to collaborate with their army. 3 is to train their police force to actually act like a real local police force. Not having the military be the police force, but having a police force be a police force. 4, I can't remember now. And 5 is to hold Pakistan accountable for the fact that the open border between Afghanistan and Pakistan is very porous. And there's a concern that Pakistan has not done a good job stopping the terrorists that find safe haven in Pakistan crossing the border into Afghanistan. The bomb that was dropped there, the strategy behind it, I am assuming, was that that region known as Nangarhar province, where I was right there, not where the bomb was, but in the Nangarhar province nearby, the day before they dropped the bomb, is that the Afghans would never go into these ungoverned areas. They would always wait for the fight to come to them at checkpoints. And this is a huge ungoverned area on the Pakistani border. And the Americans are trying to convince the Afghanis to start going out and going after these guys themselves and taking responsibility for their own country and to firm up that border between the two. And I actually met with the Pakistani ambassador recently and told him, I said, listen, I have a lot of Pakistani residents in my district and they want me to work on this issue and that issue related to Kashmir and India and stuff like that. I said, but every expert I've talked to in the American government doesn't trust the Pakistani government. They think you're housing terrorists and allowing them to infiltrate Afghanistan as well as doing other stuff. So they're never going to pay attention to your concern about your eastern border with India until you pay attention to your western border with Pakistan. And he went through a litany of things where he's talked about how they've started to govern the ungoverned areas and people are moving into those areas. They've started to firm up their border, and the terrorist attacks in Pakistan have gone from as much as over 100 a day to down to 100 a month to down to less than 5 a month. So I apologize, this is all over the place, but this is a really complex area. I believe that the problem that we have with Afghanistan is that there really is, I'm very impressed by the military. I've always supported our veterans, I've very supported the troops, but I had an impression of the military being very gung-ho, you know, cowboy type of thing. I was very impressed by how professional, intelligent, courageous, and responsible the people I met in Afghanistan were as far as how they would use force. And you know, they would really look to what their authorities were, what they were permitted to do and not permitted to do before they would actually act on things. And that was really an overwhelming impression that I received. My concern is that this is a vestige of the previous administration where there was a very strong discipline about acting within certain authorities, and I'm concerned about whether the new administration will continue to have that same sense of responsibility as to what they're doing. The big concern about Afghanistan, American soldiers now are not going after the Taliban in Afghanistan. They are training the Afghans to go after the Taliban, and they don't have the authority, not because of the War Powers Act, but because of statutory authority from the Secretary of Defense Office to go after the Taliban. Because the Taliban is really focused on taking over Afghanistan. They're not focused on going to Europe or coming to America and killing us. ISIS and Al-Qaeda, on the other hand, they want to organize. You give them any rest, they will organize to go to Europe or come to America and kill us. That's what their stated mission is to do. And our guys our special forces will go after ISIS and Al-Qaeda. We'll engage with Taliban if there's an attack against us, and as a matter of force protection, we'll do it. But it's really up to the Afghanis to do that under the existing authorities. I'm concerned that we're going to revert to the old way of doing it, which is, let's take it too long. Let's go shoot these guys. Let's go after this. So we have a military plan for the next 4 years that to me makes a lot of sense. That's based upon train, assist, and advise the Afghanis to build their military to be effective. I also met with the diplomats. I'm very concerned there is not a commensurate civil plan to build the government. They're doing it, but there's not a plan that the Americans have said, this is the plan we're supporting to help build the nation. In addition to all the stuff that I just talked about, two external forces are major problems. One is the Pakistanis. The second is that Afghanistan is the largest poppy producer in the world, which is used for making heroin. The heroin that comes out of Afghanistan does not come to America because of the cartels in Mexico are not permitting it to come to America. But 80% of the heroin in Canada comes from Afghanistan. Additionally, most of the heroin in Russia and Iran comes from Afghanistan. So if I had my way and I wasn't just a little freshman Democrat in the minority, but I'm still working on this stuff anyway by meeting with these ambassadors, and I'm trying to get the Muslim majority countries to actually help us that are not, our enemies. Like Indonesia. Indonesia is the largest Muslim country in the world. 269 million people, 200-something million are Muslims. They have tolerance in their society. They have, freedom of religion. They have all these other things. They're actually, an ally of ours, but they're actually not allied officially with anybody. They have a government policy of doing that. But they're being threatened right now because the Saudis spend a lot of money promoting Wahhabism, which is kill the Jews and kill the Americans. And they're spreading their intolerant views in Indonesia and other Muslim majority countries that have tolerance right now. So our objective has to be to really get the tolerant Muslim majority countries to work with us against the crazies. That's the idea of empowering our Muslim majority allies. Anyway, we have to try and convince, and I don't know how I would do this, I can't do this myself, but we have to try and convince Iran and Russia that it's in their self-interest to stop the poppy growing in Afghanistan. Because the terrorists are not just terrorists, they're criminals. They're drug dealers, they're murderers, they're extortionists. They're like the mafia was in the 20s even. These guys, most of them are criminals. It's not like some ideological thing, we got to do this, we got to do. They're criminals. And I think we need to start talking about that more in this country, about how these guys are just criminals. But we can't go be the policemen of the world. It's impossible. But what we should be doing is trying to use our diplomatic forces and our military forces to help these other countries govern themselves. We'll never be able to do it. It's impossible. It will never happen. The same thing goes with Syria. We can't solve the Syrian problem ourselves. We have to figure out how they can solve the Syrian problem themselves. I mean, I actually met some Catholic, Orthodox Syrian bishops last week. They would rather see Assad back in power, as awful as a man as he is, because the place was stable. The battle in the world today is not between this ideology versus that ideology. It's between stability versus instability. And there are people propagating instability all over the world. And as instability takes place, these darker forces are taken over. So it's not like it was when the Soviets were fighting the Americans and it was based upon an ideology, and the Americans were propping up these half-baked countries and the Russians were propping up these half-baked countries. Now nobody's propping up these countries and they're falling apart. They're falling apart in Africa, they're falling apart in different parts of the Middle East, and they're going into instability. And when that instability reigns, that's where the terrorists are coming in and taking over. Because they're criminals, and they're looking to make money out of it as well. Syria started because of a drought, because of climate change. And then people left their farms, 85% agricultural society. People left their farms, they went into the city to try and find a job, they looked to the government for help, the government doesn't give them any help, the people in the middle of the Arab Spring start revolting, and then Assad starts killing his own people. So climate change, so this last thing I'm going to say, I don't even know if I'm answering your question as much as you'd like me to. But the bottom line is that in America, and I'd rather be talking about this stuff more too, quite frankly, because it's so important and it's really about the long-term future. America supported Osama bin Laden. He was our guy. We supported him to fight the Russians in Afghanistan. We supported Saddam Hussein. He was our strong man in the Middle East. After we lost the Shah in Iran, Saddam Hussein was our guy in the Middle East to support us. We supported Syria. We supported, today, the Saudis. Okay? Despite the fact the Saudis made a deal with the Wahhabis, the royal family said, listen, keep us in power, don't mess with us. We'll give you money. We got a lot of money from oil. You guys do what you want. And the Wahhabis, which are a political deal that was made with the royal family, are the ones out promoting all the crazy fundamentalism. Why did we do that? Why did we do that? We did it because of oil. That was the American strategy for that region, to have access and stability in that region, because we supported these different people throughout our history. Nobody in that region trusts us, because we've manipulated the region for 50 years, longer than that, 100 years. For the first time in our lifetimes, we don't need the oil in that region the way we've historically needed the oil. If the presidential election had gone a different way, I was hoping that we could say, listen, we're going to move more and more to a clean economy, a green economy. We could then reset the relationship in the Middle East and say, listen, we never wanted your land, we never wanted your money, and now we don't need your oil. We just need people to stop killing each other. And we need the people that are reasonable to fight against the people that are trying to kill us. That's getting lost. I mean, the president's talking about increasing the number of troops in Afghanistan to fight the Taliban, which is a complete change from what the policy was before. Here's a note. Okay. Wrap it up. Okay. All right. You want to say something else? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. What we're going to do is everybody's going to answer their question that's here, and then I'm going to try and answer them together.
So my question's easy. Obviously, we have a lot of single-payer supporters in this room. There we go. So I want to talk to people that aren't really that familiar with it. Tom says keep doing what you're doing. What I've been doing is inviting people to come learn more about it. I'd love you all to come down to the Manhasset Library this Thursday at 7 o'clock and watch the movie Fix It, Healthcare at the Tipping Point with us, and then have a question and answer from some experts who actually do support single payer in New York State. I'd also like to invite you to a June 11th event where we can meet a congressman that supports single payer in New York State. No comment.
Steve, talking to the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Not good at doing the microphone thing yet.
Who are the experts that will be on Thursday?
Mariana, myself, and a couple others. Okay? So it was Thursday night, Manhasset Library. Okay? 7 o'clock p.m. And it's... And Saturday, come down and join us and support single payer. We're going to be outside Kemp Hannon's office. He's the chair of the health committee. And we're going to be out there telling him we want this and we need him to get it out of committee. And let's have our state senate vote on single payer in New York State. Let's see where they stand and let's let them run on it. June 11th is at Cannon's Blackthorn Restaurant in Rockville Center. Yes, you can also, if you can't make it out to Manhasset Library, you can see Fix It, called Fix It Healthcare at the Tipping Point, and you can watch it on YouTube.
Thank you.
All right, so my name is Taylor Mandelbaum. I actually can sit up here for an hour and we can discuss a lot of things. So I'm not going to make that happen. It's too late, and I wouldn't anyways. Of course, I'm obviously in support of single payer, and I kind of understand where you're at. You're in a vulnerable situation. You are trying to do kind of like 500 things following the more wealthy individuals in CE theory, because they are voting public. So you have to do what's best for your constituents. I understand that, and I understand that HR 676 isn't perfect, and it's definitely not going to pass in the state that it is. You supporting it, and again, I know you disagree, but I think that you supporting it, again, even though it won't pass, shows that you're willing to consider and put in the effort for single payer that a lot of people are looking for. I'm actually at risk for multiple sclerosis. My aunt has it, and somebody in my family died before I was born from it. So for me personally, knowing that at some point I might have a pre-existing condition and all of this fun stuff, I think that it's imperative that we have something that every other developed, or almost every other developed country in this world has. I'm also a master's student at Stony Brook getting a degree in atmospheric science. I'm a nerd. If you remember Jonathan Clark saying he has a climate scientist on his staff, I'm not a climate scientist, but I was that person. I can speak to any point that people make, any counter argument that people make about climate change. I love basically looking at the sky for you. But I want to know that you are willing to support very, very strong-willed legislation and action to move towards a green future for the reasons that you described. For getting out of the situation we're in with dependence on OPEC and the oil from overseas, stop negotiating with Saudis who promote terrorism across the world, and to make sure that we have a strong economy. China's going to kill us. Even though they're still relying on coal, they're moving towards a green energy system extremely quickly. And although they're communists and they have a lot of power and a lot of energy up high, I think that you should be doing that. Personally, I think that you should be doing that, and I see that we're getting rushed. So,
thank you.
What's your opinion on that is what I want to know.
I got a good one for that. Cool.
My name is Judy Gardner, and I was also a delegate to the NC from your district for Bernie Sanders. And you are a co-sponsor, I think, and you voted for HR 849, which is sometimes called the Scrub Act. And it repeals a feature of the ACA that keeps Medicare costs down. And as a senior...
No, that's not the Scrub Act, that's something else.
Oh, that's something else. I mixed them up. Sorry, I mixed them up. Well, 849, right? Repeals a feature of ACA that keeps the Medicare costs down? Yeah. Are you a co-sponsor of that one?
That's not what it is, but okay. Yeah,
okay, so someone gave the wrong information, the number wrong. Okay, I'm concerned about that you're a co-sponsor of that particular bill. And as a senior, and a lot of seniors here, we're very concerned about our Medicare. Medicare they've gone into Social Security and Medicare for other things. Medicare is a good bill. It's self-supporting. And also, you know, it's a very important thing that we need to make sure that Medicare and Medicaid are kept safe. And it's something we have to fight for. And we have to fight for single payer. Even if it won't pass, we have to know that you're fighting for it.
Hi, Eric Lumner, Huntington Station, and part of your Region 10 group. First of all, I thank you for having these forums, letting everybody talk. We have at least one Republican up here talking. As someone who is banned from Peter King's Facebook page, one of many people banned from Peter King's Facebook page for daring to criticize him. I like that you're letting everybody talk here. We've spoken before. I've spoken to you, I've spoken to your staff. My number one issue is healthcare. I'll tell everybody, I've said it before, the Affordable Health Care Act saved my son's life yesterday, it saved my son's life today, and it'll save his life tomorrow, and as long as it's active. I appreciate the fact that you're in the Problem Solvers Caucus. I think that's a great thing. But I've had a lot of problems, and this might be another thing for Mike's list out there, of finding out who is in the Problem Solvers Caucus. I know the 22 Democrats voted against the health care bill, but how did the 22 Republicans vote? Without naming names, how did the 22 Republicans vote on that?
A bunch of them voted against it. There were a lot of them were the ones, a lot of them were in the Problem Solvers Caucus, a lot of them, the ones in the Problem Solvers Caucus, a lot of them voted against the Republican Health Care Act. Is it possible to get this? Yeah.
Is it possible to list the members who are in this caucus, so on any sort of vote, we can check and see how they're voting on the issues?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Carrie Puglisi. I'm in Northport, and I do not get up in front of people, so this is not my comfort zone at all. I just wanted to thank you, because I was so busy raising my kids and running the PTA and doing local stuff. I was really focused on that and thought that everyone else had the politics stuff taken care of, but now I realize that it's not what it is. We all need to show up, we all need to be here, and we all need to support somebody who is trying. So he's not perfect. Nobody is. Someone says, you're progressive enough, you're not this enough, you're not that enough. It's not Republican, it's not Democrat. I think it's just, we're all Americans, and we all need an earth to live on with clean water. I think we can all agree on a lot of different things. So what I've been trying to do is to talk to people. It's hard, especially when Republican family members won't talk to me. But I did find myself on a park bench in Northport a few weeks ago, sitting next to a person who came out very quickly. He was a Republican. I did not say anything. But he started talking. We had an intensely deep conversation. And we had a lot of common ground before I told him I was Democrat. But he didn't stop talking to me, and that's the most important thing. I think we all need to talk to each other. So I appreciate what you're doing with your congressional counterparts. I think we all in this room, whether we're Republicans or Democrats, need to do that to each other, because we need to have a better world for our kids to live in. So thank you.
Thank you for speaking. That was a good finish. No, I don't know how. I will pay her now, though. There was a lot of good stuff. You know, we discussed a lot of the single-payer stuff, and what you're doing is exactly what you should be doing. You should be continuing to educate people about the issue and try and get more facts out there and help us all to learn more about the way that this could actually work. Regarding the clean energy, who's the clean energy guy that was just up there? Regarding your stuff, you know, we'd love to get your help too. You know, we'd love to have your insights on things. But the Problem Solvers Caucus, one of the things that we specifically talk about is a good way to get Democrats to support an infrastructure bill is to include clean energy projects as part of the infrastructure bill. So we're saying, listen, we'll work with you on getting an infrastructure bill done. Bring us over the finish line by including clean energy projects as part of it. Now, I don't know if that'll happen, but that's one of the things that we're actually saying to people. And similar to what Ms. Puglisi just said, is we really do share a lot more in common with people than you would think. It's just a matter of actually spending time talking to them. I mean, there's so little that divides us. It really is so little, but that stuff is what gets all the attention. So we have to figure out what kind of things we can actually work on together. Wouldn't it be great if we could actually get an infrastructure bill passed that would help fix the sewers in Northport, actually do green energy projects, would actually address climate change, you know, would be part of, you know, keep America in the Paris Accords. So we need to figure out how to push for those things that we can get done and find common ground. It was a specific strategy. This goes to a question that was asked earlier. Chuck Schumer actually laid out a strategy for Democrats publicly at the beginning of the president's term, where he said, listen, we're not going to propose an alternative to Obamacare, because many Democrats agree that we need to mend the Obamacare. We need to mend it, not end it. There are problems that need to be fixed. But the Democrats were not going to propose an alternative because the Republicans had been beating us up for the past 7 years in a row, and we needed them to come out with their proposals, because they figured they really don't have any good proposals. And whatever they propose, the public's not going to like it. And that's exactly what happened. Less than 20% of the public supports what the Republicans did with health care. So it's a very big, from a strategy point of view, a very big winning strategy that happened. I think that there has to be a step now, and again, I'm little Tom Suozzi, freshman Democrat, that the Democrats need to be proposing alternatives now as to how to mend Obamacare and make it more effective. There are some people that want us to mend it all the way with universal health. I believe that from a strategic point of view, we're not at that place whatsoever. We don't have enough information about it as to what the impacts would be. But we need to continue to educate people about it and build organizations to support it. So this was a really great meeting for me. I appreciate that everybody stayed as long as they did. I really love my job. I really am so honored to be in this position. I've been involved in public service for a long, long time. I love being mayor of Glen Cove, county executive, and but this I didn't get indicted. That's right. But this job, I love this job. I'm very honored to be in this position. I will continue to meet with the public, meet with you if you want to meet with me. I will listen to what your concerns are. I will try and find ways that we can agree to get things done together. And I will continue to try and do the best I can to represent your interests. Thank you very much, everybody.